The Jungle Book is a well-known novel from Rudyard Kipling that's been adapted into quite a few movies and TV shows, including a Disney animated film that pretty much everybody knows about, as well as a few live-action movies around and inside the 90s, including one that was actually from Disney too. This version that I'm talking about today is a kind of live-action retelling of the Disney animated film from 1967, the last film, or one of it, no, it was the last film that Walt Disney himself actually worked on. And the reason why I wanted to do this video was because every once in a while, when I've just got nothing to do, I turn on Jungle Book randomly. And it's really because ever since I first saw it, it really stuck with me. But I'll get into that more a little bit later. For those of you familiar with the story, you know that it all revolves around a young human boy named Mowgli, who is raised in the wilds of Asia by some wolves. One day, a tiger called Shere Khan threatens him because Shere Khan has a basic hatred for humans, so the wolves decide to send Mowgli to the nearest human village with the help of a Black Panther named Bagheera, and along the way, Mowgli meets a few colorful characters, let's call them. Neil Sethi portrays Mowgli in his film debut, and he does a great job. He's actually really fantastic as this kid. But with that, I did have one issue and a bit of a complaint with him, but it's really not his fault. It's, there's a few times where you can tell that Neil is acting to nothing, and his eyes would flick about in a very obvious way. He wasn't sure which way to look exactly. And like I said, it's not his fault because not only was this, and I said, his first film, but he was also acting towards nothing. And I can understand that he may have been a bit confused about that, especially which way to look, but he also did it much better than many adult actors who have been doing film for years. He did it a lot better than most of them would, so I gotta give him credit. And also, for those of you who don't know what I mean by acting to nothing, I'll get more into that a little bit later. The cast of the animals is amazing. You've got A-list talent like Ben Kingsley, Bill Murray, Idris Elba, Lupita Nyong'o, Scarlett Johansson, Christopher Walken. Everybody in this is great. Everybody is cast perfectly. Except for one person, one of the people that I actually listed off. And actually everything for this character is off for me, so I'm going to go off a bit on a tangent about the rest of the movie that has to do with that character. I am of course talking about the giant snake Kaa, and he happens to be voiced by Scarlett Johansson, and yes, I said he. It has been confirmed many times. He was a male in the original novel, and he was a male in the animated movie, so that is a minor complaint for me. But that's not the reason why I didn't like her portrayal in this movie. For me, hearing her voice was the only time that I was taken out of the film. With all the other characters, sure, it took me a bit to recognize the voice actors' names. I did eventually, but it never took me out of the film mentally. This one did, and it went from the animated movie, which had the voice actor of Winnie the Pooh and the Cheshire Cat, which, for both of those are just iconic voices for that character. They went from those to Black Widow. And I know that's probably a nitpick, but it actually did bother me. Also, while I'm on the subject of Kaa, the entire sequence with him is kind of jarring compared to the rest of the film. Just filled to the brim with expositional dialogue where he explains to Mowgli, you know, where he, not where Kaa came from, but where Mowgli came from. Because for some reason he knew, and we don't get an explanation for that. It was also the only time that I actually thought, while looking at an animal, you're not real. Luckily, the scene only lasts for like a couple of minutes, and then we get straight back into the film that I was enjoying in the first place. Now, to some of you, probably a bit of what I've said is a bit unfair, but that's just my honest-to-God opinion, and I'm not bashing on whatever you guys believe. Now onto Baloo, the sloth bear that everybody loves because of the original animated movie. Bill Murray. Fucking Peter Venkman from Ghostbusters portrays Baloo. This was amazing casting. He just sounds perfect all throughout, and for the longest time, I would say, okay, in my opinion, his last great role before Jungle Book was Lost in Translation, and you can either say he was good or just plain great in that movie. I'm actually pretty sure that... Didn't he get nominated for an Oscar? Ever since Lost in Translation, he's been basically phoning it in with pretty much everything, and the biggest example was with the Garfield movies. But in the Jungle Book, he actually does an amazing job, and he's really funny too, something that I did not expect to see him be anymore. Also, Shere Khan is portrayed by everybody's favorite black British person, Idris Elba, and he's amazing as always. It's I can't speak. It's Idris Elba. What do you expect? But what was especially great was how the character of Shere Khan was written for this movie, because in the original animated movie, I just looked at him and I thought, you're just a pompous British-sounding asshole. And he also, in my opinion, had no motivation for wanting to kill Mowgli. He's just walking around being like, oh, I'm the biggest badass, I want to kill you. But in this version, he's a much more terrifying presence in the film throughout, and not just in the last 10 minutes of the movie, like the animated one. And then my favorite fucking character, and my favorite fucking performance in the entire movie, Christopher Walken plays King Louie, the orangutan that we remember from the original one. The only difference is that this time he's a just gigantic motherfucker. And I thought that was kind of cool for the movie because if you're familiar with how the animal kingdom works, there aren't orangutans in Asia. But what they did was they based this version of King Louie off of an extinct species of ape that they believe looked like an orangutan. It's called a Gigantopithecus, something like that. And that made sense because he's deep in the jungle and nobody would know that any of his species was still around. And I'm gonna guess that Jungle Book maybe took place like, I'm gonna say at the earliest, like maybe 700 years ago? But all that aside, Christopher Walken is amazing as this giant ape. I mean, what can I say? It's Christopher Walken. He's always great. He makes everything fun. After watching the film for the first time, I began to think to myself, I can't think of anybody better to voice all of these animal actors. Well, except for Ka, but I mean, I can't really think of anybody specifically to replace her, or, you know, whatever, him, whatever the fuck Ka is. But I don't know, that was especially true for perfect casting with Ben Kingsley as Bagheera. I mean, him, I especially thought nobody else could have done that character better. Which is kind of sad because there's supposed to be another Jungle Book that's supposed to come out from Warner Brothers, and it's directed by Andy Serkis. And the only person that I know who's part of it is Christian Bale as Bagheera? I don't know, I love Andy Serkis, but we'll see if it's better than this one. Now, growing up, as I kind of mentioned before, I'm really not a big fan of the original Jungle Book. I mean, I thought at most it was an okay film, but I was mostly disappointed every time I watched it, and that was mostly because, like, I really didn't find many of the characters interesting. I mean, Baloo was okay, King Louie kind of annoyed me. I really didn't care about the elephants, and Mowgli was really annoying, or at least in my opinion. He just wasn't the kind of main character that I wanted to root for, and also, like I said, the Shere Khan shit that I mentioned earlier. So for those main reasons, I wasn't really interested in seeing the movie. And then I also, when I heard that this film was, this live-action retelling was mostly going to be completely CGI rendered, save the kid, I thought, oh my god, this is going to look really stupid. And even when I watched the trailers, I thought, okay, it looks good, but it's like, it piqued my interest. It wasn't making me thinking, holy shit, I need to see this. Then I finally saw it on opening day, and what I saw was just amazing. I fell in love with this new version of the story. It was just a better story than the original animated movie, and the characters were actually amazing. I loved every single one just as an individual. I swear, I suck at talking, and and just the chemistry between everybody, just how they worked off of each other. And then as far as the visuals, and in case you didn't know before seeing this video, the entire movie is shot on a soundstage in LA. None of it was shot on location. Everything was, it was basically like James Cameron's Avatar, except only one live action component, not even like actual set design. Everything you see is CGI. The backgrounds, the animals, just everything, except for, like I said, Mowgli. And there are many times throughout the film where you're looking at it and you're thinking to yourself, or at least I did, I thought, am I watching a full-length feature movie in a theater, or am I watching like an IMAX special documentary that looks like it's fit for either BBC or Animal Planet? This movie just showed us just how far we can go these days with film technology and CGI technology. And hell, the director of the movie is actually going to be doing a similar movie in like a year and a half from now, 2 years, whatever. And it's the live-action retelling of The Lion King. And after seeing the movie and what the filmmakers were able to do with it, or the movie being Jungle Book, with just the backgrounds and how they were able to make realistic-looking animals, and instead of having that weird, like, 90s to early 2000s way of making animals talk using CGI, where all the talking looked natural, I'm really excited to see what Jon Favreau can do with Lion King. And just as a fun fact, The Jungle Book is an Oscar-winning film. It went home with the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, and it really deserved it. Also, one last thing, this isn't a musical like the original animated Jungle Book, but there are some musical moments. Like, there's 2 songs that they put in. One feels like it's just more incorporated in the story and the score, and then the other one is just a straight-up musical number. For the natural-sounding one, they used Bare Necessities, and it doesn't even feel like a musical song. It just felt like the composer put the tune of the song in the score very naturally, and Mowgli and Baloo just happened to be singing a random song that had about the same melody at the same time, and it felt natural. It just felt like 2 friends kind of having fun with each other. But then you get the song, I Wanna Be Like You, the King Louie song, and then it does become a musical number, and for some people, they can find that jarring, I think, and I actually understand why, but I had no issue with it. I mean, if this means that I get to watch Christopher Walken sing as a giant fucking ape, I'm all for it. In the end, guys, despite that one flaw, as well as the couple of nitpicks that I have with Kaa, I absolutely love The Jungle Book. This is my definitive Jungle Book. The voice cast is amazing, the kid is actually really good, actually, no, he's great for a first-timer. The story is intriguing and compelling, and just the visuals are fucking groundbreaking. And because of all of that, I'm going to give the 2016 live-action remake of The Jungle Book 4 reels. Well, that'll do it for me today. Please subscribe if you haven't already for more reviews and content. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and farewell until the next video. Bye, guys.